A great opportunity to come and speak to a group like this. What I'm going to be talking about today is a little bit of our experience going from China to India. How many people in here have sourced from China? Okay, I want to see how many people I'm going to offend. Or you just might say, yeah, that had the same experience. I don't know. But this is our agenda for today. Talk a little bit about, I'm getting a feedback. Talk a little bit about us and what we do and put it in context. I got something I like to talk about in terms of the sourcing continuum, because private label isn't just private label. There's several different versions of private label, and I kind of put together a slide to put that in context. We'll talk about a little bit of our history and experience of moving from China to India and why we did it. And then at the end, I'll just give you a little bit of information on our warehousing 3PL company. So this is my background. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. That's our underwear company. That's our 3PL company. I invented the patent that our underwear program is based on, because I'm a recovering engineer, I guess. Got a materials background as well. I'm an old person, so 45 years of business. You figure I should be thinking about retirement, not right now, but can't do that. It's because this is too much fun. Too much fun. I'm not going to go park myself in front of a TV or spend my days on a golf course. I'm going to be doing e-commerce. So been in a lot of different markets. Started in the automobile market, ended up in the underwear business. So who knows? And then I'm also a group admin for a Facebook group that specifically focuses on Amazon FBM. So if anybody want to join our group, if you want to learn a little bit more about the FBM side of things. This is our underwear business. We founded it in 2014. Like I said, it was based on the patented pouch. We have some examples back there on the table if you want to kind of see for yourself. We have over 800 SKUs. And we operate on Magento, 3 Shopify sites, as well as Amazon and Walmart. To believe it or not, the Amazon's only about 40% of our business. And one of our business strategy was not to become over-reliant on Amazon. And I know we've all heard of horror stories, how you can be like shut down or at least substantially disrupted for maybe not even a fault of your own. And if you go on our website, that's actually our TV commercial that what we air in the United States. And it talks about our website. I'm sorry, our product, our underwear product. And you know, this is kind of in the context of private label. One of the challenges we have is our product is so unique and so differentiated. You think it's good to have a differentiated product, right? Well, it's expensive because you have to educate the consumer of what it is and why they need it. So you bear a lot of that responsibility, like TV advertising is not cheap. Then this is the 3PL company that we have. We're based in Jacksonville as well. I never thought I'd be back in the warehousing business, but our business, we actually got shut down by Amazon 5 times due to our contract 3PLs that we were working with at the time. Poor performance, late shipments, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Finally, they said, the heck with it, we can do this better ourselves. So we built FBM fulfillment, and then we said, well, this is really cool. So we, 2019? Yeah, we opened it up to other companies, and we're working with about 31 companies right now, and it's growing quite rapidly. This is the product strategy continuum I was talking about. And you know, I really enjoy all the conversations I'm having with all you folks and whatever, but when you talk about private label, it can be so different. You know, we can all be in private label, but the business model has its own unique requirements. So, and I kind of put this thing together where over on the easiest side of private label, where you're taking something basically off the shelf, maybe putting a brand registered name on it and getting it into Amazon. It's really somebody else's product that you're putting your name on. Then on the other side here is where it's totally your own product, your own designs, you specifying it, you're having a contract manufactured. I'm not saying one's right and one's wrong, but they're very different. So if you're over here, what are the characteristics of being over here? Well, you're going to have much shorter lead times. You're going to have much smaller MOQs. Probably can do it with a much smaller budget, but you're going to run into more price sensitivity. It's going to probably be more of a short-term play. You really don't have to worry about supervising the factory too much, and that's all in contrast with over on the right side. And this is unfortunately where we're at. Much longer lead times. We're talking months, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. It's differentiated, it's exclusive, very little price sensitivity. Nobody in the world can do what we do like we do it. Much higher margins, much higher MOQs. My MOQ for a fabric and a color is about 3,000 to 4,000 units. You have to watch the factories very closely because they're making things to your specification, and you've got to make sure that takes place. High value, and so that kind of gives you an idea what the difference here. Now I'm not going to go through this. This is just some definitions of some of the terms I used on the other page. So when you get the slides, this will just kind of back that up. Why did I move from China to India? Well, before I got into the underwear business, before I was in business for myself, I was part of another company, and we were doing waterproof keyboards and mice for the medical industry. Our keyboards and mice you could actually put in the dishwasher and clean them. And we were sourcing them in Shenzhen. So that's where I kind of learned the international sourcing game. I still own part of that company, but I moved on to my own company, and obviously, if I'm going to produce underwear, where was my comfort zone? It was China, but it was a little bit different part of China. It was Fujian, China, which is kind of up the coast from Hong Kong. And I was in China, sourcing in China. Every time I would go visit the factories, and I'm just kind of it's very important for me to spend time with the factory. It's very important for me to develop personal relationships with the people that are in charge of the factory. And I walked out of there oftentimes with some very discomfort, a lot of discomfort. The environmental issues was one. I know we learned yesterday that India was clean and green. Did anybody else hear the tour guide say that? And obviously India is a developing country, and they have some challenges along those areas. But believe it or not, China is much worse. And the pollution, the what they put in their waterways, what they just dump on the ground, it's just incredible. Where you go there and you spend 3 or 4 days and you blow your nose and it comes out black. I found I couldn't spend more than about 4 to 5 days in China without really feeling hurting my health. China's got a lot of human rights issues that cause. These are all things I really didn't want associated with my brand. Walking through factories and see mothers working at sewing machines with their kids playing at their feet. Little babies in the factory. It just kind of broke your heart. You walk through the factory and people don't make eye contact with you. You're thinking, are they here voluntarily, or are they here because they're being forced? That's the kind of impression you get. Fortunately, I pay kind of a lot of attention to politics, world politics, and we're all seeing right now there's a lot of saber rattling going on with China as they're ascending. A lot of concern about Taiwan. I actually saw this coming about 5 years ago, and I was very concerned about the political climate and what that would mean. And I didn't want to have to relocate my business under duress. I wanted to do it according to a plan. We're from the United States, obviously, and within my market, with the people I talk to, there's becoming more and more consumer resentment against the brand made in China. Almost daily, people ask, is your product made in China? English, I can't underestimate this, overemphasize this enough. The fact that you're dealing with people in India that speak English is such an advantage. Whether you're talking to the owner of the company or you go into the factory, you can actually have a conversation with the workers. One of the things I was very frustrated in China, where I would send my specifications to the sales rep, typically 21-year-old female, and she would be the only one in the whole organization that spoke English. And even when you're there visiting the factory and you're trying to talk to the management, everything's going through a translator. You have no idea if what you're saying is actually being translated correctly. And if she makes a mistake translating your requirements and specs, big problems happen. So the English is really makes working here in India so much more comfortable. Ethics. Some of the Chinese I've worked with have been ethically challenged. You got to kind of watch your back. They will substitute inferior materials. They always are looking to cut corners, angles. It just didn't give you the ethical vibe that you were looking for in a business partner. Of course, as we're all experiencing this week, the Indian culture and the people are just wonderful. I've had the pleasure now of traveling to India once or twice a year for the last 5 years, and just totally look forward to coming back. I'm a big fan of the Indian cuisine, and to be honest, I like Northern Indian cuisine better than Southern Indian cuisine. This up here is just awesome. Of course, I'm a spicy person. And then the last one, and this may not seem important, but for my kind of business it is supply chain transparency. One of the things you could never get in China is for them to disclose who their source suppliers were on packaging, in my case on fabric, this, that, and the other. And not only would they not disclose it, but order to order to order, they wouldn't even, you had no idea if they were using the same fabric supplier. So what that resulted in is a lot of product inconsistency. And when, in my business, if somebody buys a pair of these underwear and then 2 years later wants to buy more, they expect them to fit the same as the last pair that they wore. And when they don't fit the same, then you get complaints. And the fabric is a big part of that. Expensive mistakes. Well, I tried Bangladesh. Bad news, really bad news. It very expensive, cost me about $20,000 and I got zero for it. So just take that for what it's worth. China, comparing China to India, pricing I find is pretty similar. The MOQs, typically in my business, and again, I'm putting on this in the context of my business, so I can't really make any broad generalizations here. So just take my experience for what it's worth in the context of my business. But the MOQs were much higher in China. I'm sorry, in India. I probably couldn't have started in India because I couldn't do 4,000 and 5,000 units per SKU or per family, color, fabric, style. Obviously, the communications we talked about. Logistics, kind of similar. It really, throughout the whole pandemic and everything, that whole thing has kind of waned back and forth. Obviously, we all know that the transportation from China had gotten really expensive and really difficult. We're still having some pandemic effects in the transportation from India. I usually bring things in full container. My products don't go through Mumbai like many of your products do. My products go down through Chennai. They put them on a barge container to Sri Lanka and put on a container ship in Sri Lanka to come through the Suez Canal. No Chinese New Year. That's a biggie. I mean, if you're sourcing from China, you basically build your life around the Chinese New Year in terms of your supply chain. Quality's mixed. In some ways, China was better. In some ways, India is better. I would say India is more honest about the quality, but in both cases, you need to pay close attention. What are the downsides sourcing in India that I've experienced, the Indian people are extremely polite, and they want to interact with you pleasantly, and they're not very good at delivering bad news. So there's a tendency to overpromise and underdeliver. So when you're dealing with your Indian supplier, keep that in the back of your mind, that there's an adversity to conflict, and that's just a cultural difference. Where I'm kind of more of a, give me the bad news and tell me how it is, and make me a commitment and stick to it. That's a challenge. There's a bureaucracy in the culture. They tend to, I'll just leave it there. Unfortunately, they're right now slow to adopt some of the modern manufacturing methods. In my prior life, I taught total quality, I taught lean manufacturing. I came up through the automobile industry, through the electronics industry, some of the most advanced industries in the world around advanced manufacturing. And you go through my factories and you just kind of go. But they're coming along. Hopefully, as they continue to develop, they'll be open more to adopting some of those practices. Some things, not every country does everything well. One area I ran into a problem with was packaging. When I moved my business from China to India, I had my first round of packaging done in India. Same exact package, same exact specs. Go do this. Complete disaster. I ended up having to move my packaging back to Hong Kong. So I actually import my packages and supply them to my Indian factory. So I guess, don't force it. Import if necessary. And again, this is a case-by-case basis. And obviously, you've got to pick the right industry. And I think some of the other speakers will be talking about this as well. Don't come to India for electronics. Don't come to India for plastics manufacturing. I could go on and on with a few other things. Stick with what they do very well. In my case, they do apparel and textiles very well. I think we're going to be going to the Delhi Trade Fair, where they do a lot of home decor extremely well, and many other things. So, but again, don't try to be a pioneer in an industry that they're not experienced in. I'm going to blow through this really quick because we're all kind of living this right now in this next couple weeks. But the Hindu culture definitely affects the business climate, and it's very positive. But the better that you can understand it and respect it, the more successful you're going to be here in India. I'm a big believer in local resources. I have a full-time employee, Satish, who manages my factories, and so he and I talk. And then he speaks to my factories on a day-to-day basis. I mean, obviously, when I travel to India, I'm speaking with him directly. But I use Satish as my boots on the ground, my man up front to make sure that everything gets done correctly. Obviously, developing a relationship with the senior management of your factory is critically important. This last trip, we had the opportunity to travel to Isha. Anybody know what Isha is in India? Okay, it's kind of the headquarters of meditation. I mean, this is like this multi-square mile facility, and gurus, and they have schools, and it was quite an experience. So we got to go spend the day with the owner's family, and she had actually spent several years of her life living here, and but it's all about developing that relationship. So as we're all learning here on this trip, language can vary wildly in India. Where I source my products, they speak Tamil. They don't speak Hindu, and people who speak Tamil typically do not understand people who speak Hindu. And when they need to talk to each other, they speak in English. So yeah, my factories are down here. Obviously, religion, Hindu being the number one, Islam 2, Christianity 3. I'm personally Christian, Catholic, and I just absolutely love going to church here. It is fantastic. We went to church last Sunday. We're going to be going again next Sunday early if anybody wants to join us. But it's just really cool being in a culture like this and being able to practice your faith with the Indian people. Matter of fact, at home, our priest is Indian, so it's really not a big change for us. I'll just go right by this one. So here are the things you need to do if you're going to source in India, from my perspective. Okay, you got to check the factory certifications. You got to make sure that they're financially solid. You don't want any fly-by-night companies. The third one is probably the most important: clear and correct requirements and specifications, in writing, reviewed, maybe even signed off. The next one's really important too. Pick a factory that fits your order sizes. Don't go to the mega factory with a small MOQ and twist their arm to take you on. That's a bad fit. It's going to create problems. You want to deal with a factory that's comfortable in the MOQ range that you're talking about. And as you grow, you may have to switch factories to go to a larger scale operation. But don't try to put a square peg in a round hole. And I'm telling you this because I made this mistake here in India. I went to one of the largest apparel manufacturers in India, and they had 26,000 employees. And they were really impressive and great PowerPoint and whatever, but it wasn't a good fit. So right now, I'm working in a factory where I'm probably one of their top 5 customers. And it's just a much better fit. And you have much more influence and leverage. Doing a factory audit is strongly recommended. If you can do it yourself, that's cool. But there are a lot of sources. I think there's sources in the back here that can help you do a factory audit. RSJ, we're going to start using RSJ for our next order, I think. But doing that factory audit is a nice way that you can, from home, have somebody go through there and give you an objective evaluation of a factory. And you just want to, again, you want to make sure they're legit. Pre-production samples in hand, obviously. Third-party in-process audits and final inspections. I would never let anything out of a factory without a final inspection. Again, our friends in the back can help you with that. And my guy does the in-process audits, but nice thing about in-process audits, if there's an issue, you want to catch that early. Because once it's ready to ship and you find a big problem, then it gets messy. It gets messy. It gets uncomfortable. I try to avoid trading companies. The middlemen just really do not add a lot of value. I really want to deal directly with the factory ownership. When you start dealing with trading companies, you have a lot of potential conflicts of interest. You really don't know whose side they are on. So I'm kind of anti-trading company. Obviously, visit the factory if possible. That's kind of why we're here. Sales contracts. Every order I put out, there's about a 15-page sales contract. If they miss their delivery, what are they obligated to do? My supplier missed the last delivery by a whole lot. And they had to pay to have 250 cases air-shipped to Jacksonville at their expense. So you have to, it basically spells out all those contingencies and expectations. And follow up. Just a quick couple seconds on FBM fulfillment. Like I said, we're in the back corner. If you want to talk more about this, we offer programs that if you're an FBA supplier, you can buy several pallets of material, have them shipped to our warehouse. We'll split out whatever percentage you want, ship it on to FBA. When your FBA quantities get down, you can just give us a call, put in a work order, and replenish and keep your IPIs and your IPIs up and your excess inventory charges down. We also do a tremendous amount of direct-to-consumer fulfillment. All my products are FBM. So we do a lot of direct-to-consumer shipping. And then A lot of people ask me, well, do we do FBM or FBA? And we recommend both. And we can talk about that more if you're interested. Return services and prep work. So this is my contact information, and really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you guys. Really appreciate all the conversations I've had so far, and look forward to a successful Delhi trade show. Thank you.